What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I've got a quick one for you talking about the CMore RTS3 and the RTS3. I'm going to go ahead and put the end right at the beginning. I think this is probably one of, if not the best optics for open guns that you can get right now. And I'll show my work on kind of how I get there. Before we get there, yes, this was a sample provided by CMore Optics for review. But to validate what I'm going to say, I have purchased a full price one for my other open gun that I want to put on there as well because I liked this dot so much that it's absolutely fantastic. So what does the RTS3 do that the RTS2 doesn't? Well, first and foremost, physically, the lens is much bigger, the lens is a little bit clearer, and there are a handful of reticles right out of the gate, so you can probably find something that's close enough to what your preference is. Another thing that the RTS3 does that the RTS2 doesn't is it actually adjusts down to like usable cloudy day and indoor range settings without blowing out the brightness. The old RTS2's brightness floor was too high. Like if it was an overcast day and you wanted to shoot groups and you didn't want a big blistering glowy dot, too bad, because that's what you were going to get because they didn't adjust down far enough. That is taken away with the RTS3. That said, another thing that the RTS3 does besides having very clear, very nice looking glass is it has no ghost dot when you point it into the low angle of the sun. I had this on this pistol at the Open Gun Nationals this year, and what I noticed is in the mornings when I shot AM, PM, AM, so in both the zones we shot, we were shooting into the sun on our AM rotation. All of the SRO guys got ghost dots. It just wasn't very pleasant, but this dot was absolutely fine. I didn't have any issues other than the low angle of the sun showing me how dirty the lens of my optic was. Another thing that the RTS3 does that the RTS2 doesn't do, and this is the old RTS2 that I used to use, is the old versions had this little lock screw you had to loosen up before you dialed in your adjustment, then tighten after you had it zeroed. It doesn't do that anymore. It's just like every other dot where you have to use an Allen key to make adjustments, but then, you know, once you make the adjustment, it's good. And possibly something that slept on, but very, very nice to have, is the fact that the old RTS2 battery tray was a notorious failure point. And as you can see, I had a paster on the side of this optic because this tray started wanting to go on walkabouts. So a lot of people were having issues with batteries blinking out when the tray ultimately kind of failed. And I've got a few of these, and this is the only dot where the tray actually decided it wasn't going to participate. But that is alleviated on the new design of the optic because there are two set screws. And as the Holosun 507 comp guys will tell you, if you don't lock tight those screws, you can lose your battery tray mid-stage, because it seems like a bunch of people in the same weekend lost their battery trays when shooting stages in major matches. So I'm a big fan of two screws on the battery tray. So comparing it to a couple other dots, just so you guys are aware, the Romeo 3 Max, which is the old version, not the new version that's on the SIG Pro footprint, which is kind of a Delta Point Pro, not exactly, but kind of. The RTS3 lens diameter is roughly the same, although the hood on the RTS3 is a bit taller, so the lens appears a bit more circular. The glass clarity might be just a touch better on the SIG. They're very comparable, I would say, on glass clarity and tint, and I absolutely love the lenses on those. But let's talk about it next to the Trijicon SRO. The window is bigger, I mean, not meaningfully so, but it is bigger, and the window clarity is much cleaner on this, which uses a spherical lens, versus this, which uses a Mangan lens and gets kind of that warping fisheye effect. The nice thing about the Trijicon, however, is that the deck height is very, very low. So you can see the hood of this optic sits basically on top of the slide, which had to be relieved for the SRO, whereas this son of a gun kind of stands tall. It's more closer to like a Delta Point Pro thickness on a deck height. It's not as big a deal on an open gun like we have it mounted here, but if you were to go on a slide ride, it would stand taller over the slide for sure. That said, the SRO is, you know, roughly nearly 20% cheaper than the RTS3. But if I'm gonna have a race gun, I think I would prefer the RTS3 sitting atop of it personally. And I mean, I can say that for sure because I've purchased another one, and none of my race guns feature SROs. It's just kind of a preference thing. I don't love the warping. Round count on this example is about 2,500 rounds, so it's not a super high round count, but I don't expect there to be any issues. My RTS2s have been brilliant on top of my open guns with, you know, 5-figure round counts and been just fine. Open guns tend to be a little gentler on squared away optics than do slide ride guns, so I expect a long service life from what's up there. If you've got questions, please let me know in the comments what you want to know, and I'll see if I can't help you out. And if you haven't seen this video on my Bull Armory Spitfire, you can watch it here.